In part 2 of our series on the Black Atlantic, we're looking at identity and nationhood. We're considering the work of artists including Ellen Gallagher, Lubaina Himid, John Akomfrah, Chris Ofili and Fred Wilson.
Liberation, betrayal, the sea, freedom, collective memory. The Black Atlantic, as a proposition, asks the question, how do I understand who I am? Double consciousness is a term that was first coined by the African-American sociologist W.E.B. Du Bois in the early 20th century. What Du Bois meant very simply with double consciousness is the experience as a black person of looking at the world twice over. Once through your own eyes, twice through the eyes of a white society that looks at you as something strange or alien or other, something not like them. This is the quintessential experience of the black person in a white society. It's simply this acknowledgement that the world is inevitably complicated. All of our origins are made up of histories and pasts and memories and places that are compound, are layered on top of each other, are stitched together across time, across place. Who all of us are is inevitably cosmopolitan.
Not only between people of colour, but also white people.
Yes, but shouldn't it surely be seen that there is another problem underneath it all, which is the problem of the working class and middle class?
John Akomfrah's The Unfinished Conversation takes its title from the work and the ideas of Stuart Hall, perhaps the most influential cultural theorist of the post-war period. Stuart Hall suggests that the search for culture and identity is a continuing, always ongoing conversation about who we are, about how it feels to live in a country that is sometimes at peace with its past, sometimes seems to try to forget or ignore its past, but ultimately we're all heirs to this complex history. The Unfinished Conversation, it's a visual poem. 3 screens and the way images interact and flit. You're constantly forming lines and joining dots from place to moment, to people, to past, to memory, to possibility. In its form, the film itself invites us to consider aesthetically what the Black Atlantic as a proposition looks like, feels like, how it might be enacted through moving image, through film, through visual art.
One after another, they massed themselves and fell. The waves withdrew and fell again, like the thud of a great beast stamping.
Lubaina Himid's Between the Two My Heart is Balanced is actually based on a 19th century painting by Tissot. The 2 white European women are replaced by 2 black women wearing African-style clothing. Lubaina Himid is centering black presence at the heart of an image, centering black experience at the center of a map. She's bringing to vivid life the proposition of the Black Atlantic, which says let's orient how we look and how we consider the world with an understanding of black experience, of black identity as a singular force within the making of the world. The central figure in Ellen Gallagher's Bird in Hand is this slightly monstrous, piratical figure who she calls Pegleg. He has a peg leg, but he also has slightly wild features, this abundant hair. He's almost an amalgam of Black Atlantic legacies. We think about a figure that is compounded out of memory, forced migration and transportation across the Atlantic, but also out of the Caribbean itself as a zone of creolity, as an interzone where different histories and pasts and races and hierarchies of power all compound together. Perhaps we see in this peg-leg figure a denizen of Drexciya. Drexciya is a contemporary myth created by the 1990s Detroit techno group, also called Drexciya. Drexciya suggested that the descendants of those enslaved people who were thrown aboard from ships learnt to breathe underwater and formed a new civilization, a Black Atlantis that roamed and lived free underwater, where slavery, imperialism, colonialism had no sway. Peg-leg looks strange, he looks mysterious, he looks perhaps threatening, because we're so unused to the idea of what a world might look like, conjured from the point of view of a free Black experience. A number of artists have used the flag as a way to explore some of the ideas within the territory of the Black Atlantic. Fred Wilson's series of images looks at the flags that were created by newly independent African countries in the 1960s and in the 1970s. With all those flags, he takes away colour. You remain with pattern, with culture, cosmopolitanism. You remain with an understanding of nationhood as something that's complex, that's syncretic, that's made up of many different voices and many different points of view. We see a different tactic in play in Chris Ofili's Union Black. Chris Ofili takes the Union Jack and replaces the red, white and blue colours with the colours of African nationalism. Chris Ofili insists on the presence of Black people as central to the experience of what it is to be in this country. Both of these works invite us to reflect on culture, identity, nationhood as something complex, as something rich, as something worth raising a flag to.
In this episode, we've been considering identity and nationhood. In part 3, we're looking at monuments and hidden histories.